Morning, everybody. Michelle is here on January the 3rd, 2026. I need to make sure I recognize that we're in 2026. We're not in the 1900s, we're not in the 1800s, nor are we in the 1700s, even though we're behaving as such, sadly. This is another year. And I was joking around with some people yesterday, I said, new year, new problems, or new year, same problems. We all have to decide what that means to each other. Are we doing the same things over and over and over and over? I mean, since the 1700s, since the 1600s, a lot of us are doing the same things that were happening back then and not evolving out of that. We're just spinning. And sadly, that's going to come back and haunt us. So many people, because we're only given an allotted time as human beings in these physical bodies. And what do I mean by that? I'm saying that there's just a time allocation, allotment, whatever you want to say that you have. So in other words, even though a rock is a rock, eventually that rock is going to turn to what? Sand. Eventually. So I'm still very, very, very thankful. I didn't know that I would be so thankful this year. I mean, starting this year, based on what happened last year in 2025. 2025 was the year of exposure. That is a year of exposure. It's a year of people snapping out of it and getting a grip on their lives and realizing, whoa, what the hell am I thinking about? Why was I thinking this way for so long? And I told you to just be kind of gentle with yourself because you were indoctrinated just like all the rest of us. All of us were indoctrinated to believe in Santa Claus, to believe in Christmas, to believe in Jesus, Lord, all of these fairy tales. And in defense of some parents, especially my parents, what a lot of parents were attempting to do is to help us. Just think about it when you were a young child, what your parents had to do just to keep you quiet, just to keep you behaved so that they can go take care of the house, like my mom, take care of the house, prepare the dinners, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So I was thankful. I grew up in a house where we had our own backyard. And so my mom, once my dad made it safe for us to be in our backyard, that's where my mom would send us. Go in the backyard. Go to the park, or they would send us to the park down the street. But in most cases, we were told to go in the backyard so that my mom can take care of the house, which my mom and dad chose how this was going to happen. My dad, the breadwinner, the provider, the protector, and he was. My mom, the nurturer, and my mom was a protector too. My mom protected the territory of our home and our property. My mom protected that too when my dad wasn't there. And we had predators in the neighborhood. We had these aggressive, inappropriate behaving men in the neighborhood as well, who were predators and behaved inappropriately sometimes. And my mom didn't put up with none of it. Even though there was a time where I used to be so fearful of a particular man in the neighborhood. There was a particular man in the neighborhood who one day my dad was outside, clearing the property, doing what he's supposed to do. Okay? Unlike what I can say about this particular person. My dad will go outside and make sure the yard was safe because he knew that's where we would be hanging out. So he would take care of branches that look a little suspect. He'll do this, he'll do that and the other. Then one day, as he was cutting down a branch off of a tree, he mistakenly, the branch fell off and hit the gate of one of our neighbors. I can say this now because, whatever. And caused some damage into the gate when that branch, because it was a heavy branch and it was dangerous, but that's why my dad wanted to remove it, because eventually it would have came down. And so since it was on our property, my dad decided to, all right, let's take this down now. He caused some damage to the other gate. Okay. My dad said, well, I'm going to figure out how to take care of this. My dad was a thinker. But at the same time, my dad had to go to work. Sometimes he was working 10 to 12 hours a day. Sometimes he would come home and, but unlike that this particular neighbor, which was harassing him about this little, it was a small amount of damage to this gate. I don't remember him working anywhere. Okay, he would go somewhere and then come right back. He was the typical deranged neighbor who constantly harassed other people in the neighborhood just because. And he thought he was the shit. He thought, so my dad had to think about how am I going to fix this? My dad was, like I said, he was a thinker. He saw that there was some damage, and so he was attempting to figure out what to do. This neighbor kept harassing him every day. And he knew my dad was working overnight shifts, evening shifts, morning. My dad was a worker. Okay, he was attempting to provide and take care of us. So he had to think about it. I mean, he couldn't, he had to think about, okay, how am I going to fix this? So he was thinking strategically how to fix this problem. So but this, like I said, this neighbor kept threatening him. He started threatening him. And I would stand there and listen to this man say, okay, if you don't fix this by blah, blah. So this man gave my dad a deadline as to when he needed to fix this fence. And then he says, and he threatened him. He says, if you don't fix this gate by such and such and such time, something is going to happen, is what he said. It was a threat. I felt the threat, and I was a young child, and I would hear this. And then this predator, this coward, he was a coward too, had a wife and children, and they would listen to him threatening my father about this damage to the gate, which was unintentional. It was an unintentional event, and thankfully, like I said, my dad knew it was a problem, so that's why he did everything in his power to resolve it and take care of it. And so he kept threatening my dad. Every time my dad would leave out of the house to go to work, here he comes out. So towards the end of this so-called threat period, my dad eventually fixed it. Okay, he fixed the problem. And that was so great about it. It was such a simple fix. And my dad, and like I said, it wasn't intentional that the damage was caused. My dad fixed it. And from here on out, I looked at this man. I mean, he was a coward. Okay, I realized that he was abusive towards his wife, which will be, denied. I'm not sure how he behaved towards the children. I don't know, but I knew he was abusive towards his wife. So eventually, she had enough, and she moved out with her children. And so he was left, by himself over there in the house, and blah 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 blah. He would have, prostitutes coming in and out, and of course drug activity. So he lived a miserable life thereafter because of how he was treating people, how he was treating his wife, how he was treating my dad, threatening my dad, knowing that my dad was taking care of my mom and all of us, a large family. And my mom hated the man. And she didn't, it was a rage towards him because she knew he was intentionally attempting to get at her. That was his target, was my mom. He won't admit it. I mean, he's not around anyway to admit it. But apparently he had this fascination with my mom, okay? Being very, very disrespectful. And so he would do anything in his power to kind of get her to pay attention to him. And my mom would curse him out, but my dad didn't want her doing that. My dad wanted her to let him handle it. But of course, when my dad was working so much, sometimes he just wasn't there when his man, because he was a coward, because he would do certain things when my dad wasn't there, of course. That's what cowards do, by the way. And so he would antagonize my mom, and my mom would go right back at him. Like I told you, she defended, us, the house, and the property. So my point is this. Some things have to be taken on in a forceful manner, okay? There's no, to be allowing someone to disrespect you and to treat you harmfully and to antagonize you, and you don't do anything about it, that's not the right approach, okay? A lot of people say, well, turn the other cheek. No, I disagree with that. If somebody has already threatened, your provider, my dad was our provider and protector, what would you do? Okay, so it was a jealousy. It was definitely jealousy and envy. Definitely jealousy and envy. Because I can tell how this man would be standing and watching every, because the houses, most of these houses have 0 lot lines, unfortunately. And so people can just look into your property, listen to your conversations and such. And thankfully our family was able to, continue to live in that type of environment. Predators all over the place. And that's what it is about neighborhoods and places where you live. You're going to have the good, the bad, and the ugly. But you still can prosper. You can still navigate. You can still da-da-da-da-da. So towards so this man, like I said, this neighbor, predator, coward, constantly had certain elements coming into the house, out of the house, into the house, out of the house. And he thought he was a big dog in the neighborhood. Yeah. Well, one day, and then, certain members of the family started coming into our house, and we were taking care of that. I cannot forget one day, as I was getting ready to go to work, I had my niece there. One of my niece, she was maybe 4 to 6 years old, and I had her just sit out on the porch and just wait for me to come back out. I went in the house for a minute, left her sitting out there by herself. And then this neighbor, this predator coward, started paying attention to her, started talking to her, and started, saying something to her about me or something to that. I overheard the conversation. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, why is he talking to a 6-year-old, this grown-ass cowardly man, and why is he even bothering her and talking to her? So I came out and and of course, what do cowards do when they are approached? They turn away and scurry on, like a coward, just go. So I felt inappropriate around him. I felt like he was inappropriate. I don't know if it was towards me or towards my niece. I couldn't figure it out. I really couldn't. But I started to feel uncomfortable. Every time I go outside, he comes in outside. You know what I mean? Those type of neighbors. Anytime you walk out in your own fucking yard, they're coming out. And they're, and so one day, I left my purse. Not intentionally, but I was getting ready to go to work, so I realized I left something in the house. So I left my purse sitting on the table outside in front of our house. And nobody would know that the purse was there unless you were paying attention to what the fuck was going on in our yard. So one day I left my purse out there, and I ran in the house to go da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So, and just as I was coming out of the house to get ready to go, here he was coming. He was coming up in our yard. Now, why the fuck would he be doing that? And then, of course, he stopped. He didn't say a word. He stopped, and he turned and he pretended he was going somewhere else. So, in other words, this man was he was becoming increasingly disturbing. and concerning. So thankfully one day he got sick. Okay. He got sick, something was happening to him, and so he had to beg somebody in the neighborhood to take him to the hospital because nobody really wanted to deal with him. So he had to beg other people, someone, I don't know which neighbor, to take him to the hospital. And that was the last time I saw that man. And so sometimes there's a cause and effect for everything. And so a lot of people believe that they can just keep harassing people, antagonizing people, just projecting all of this criminal negative energy towards people that are not bothering them at all. And we have this situation going on now with war. We're constantly, especially in this country, and we know what country it is, constantly bothering people and, threatening people, claiming they're going to take their land, claiming this land belongs to them, that land belongs to them. And this has been happening with our country, and we know what country it is, for thousands of years. Whereas you have these certain minds of people who believe they have the right to threaten people, take their land, take their property, price them out of their home, threaten them with fines, threatening them with legal actions, just a constant slew of harassment and antagonizing people who are genuinely attempting to provide for themselves and take care of their families and themselves and have the proper basic necessities in life. Eventually, all of this is going to turn. There is cause and effect. I know a lot of people get upset and concerned about the timing of things. The timing is exactly as it happens. I know a lot of people want things to happen to them happen before they die. Remember what I said. When you die, the only thing that leaves is your physical body. Who knows how long the spiritual energy, the creational energy part of yourself, or the consciousness energy, or whatever you want to call it, the energy of yourself lingers. I say you linger forever. Okay, on this planet. So, and that goes into physics and blah, blah, blah. The energy remains. So before a level or another step of your consciousness can advance, certain attributes of your storage, or whatever you store, your evolution, has to be resolved, and it has to be neutralized in the proper fashion. So, but we've caused irreversible damage to that proper level of evolution due to the high level of our populations. All right. So my point is this. Continue to stay righteous. Defend yourself with any means necessary if you feel as though you're being harassed and being targeted, and you have do not allow it. Do not allow people to disrespect you and to trespass against you. Okay, you have a right to exist wherever you are. And those of you that are predators and cowards and always constantly bothering people, step back and ask yourself, why the fuck are you doing that? What is your problem? Okay, you either deal with it or it will be dealt with, and you're not going to like the results of it all. Leave people the fuck alone. Let people mind their own motherfucking business, and you work on yours. Some of you think you're so powerful, all because you can shoot nuclear weapons here, or you can drop bombs here, or you can take property from there. You can find people find them thieves, take people's property, evict people, steal money from their banking accounts. You feel so powerful, because you can do that. But you don't understand cause and effect either. Okay, so while we do not know what the hell happens, again, when someone physically dies, and when I say physically, it's just these bodies is what's dying. Okay, what's happening within the energy of it all? Okay, none of us had a clue what that means. That's why when you hear people again claiming they're talking to the dead, talking to your dead relatives, and that's a bunch of bullshit and it's fraud and deception. Okay, there was this world famous person who supposedly was talking to the dead, and then all of a sudden he has this serious medical condition happening to them. You know, you understand what I'm saying? You know, come on. So I'm going to focus more on the criminal negative elements this year. I'm going to focus more on them and see if I can help them to snap out of it. Okay, because there's so many righteous people out there. I'm so thankful for the people that are doing the deconstruction, reconstruction process and examining their lives and asking themselves, okay, why am I doing this? And they realize nobody has to know you're doing that. You can do that in a room of people or alone. The best part to do it is alone. And I'm going to suggest as well, do not talk so much outside of yourself. Like I'm talking into this cell phone. If you are in your aloneness and you want to talk, see if you can talk within. Just have those conversations within, because people are listening to us. People are paying attention to us with these electronic devices, picking up every sound and tone that we make. See if you can preserve that by just keeping it within. You can put your hand across your chest or heart or whatever, and have those conversations silently, whereas no one has to know. Before I moved over to this side of town, I would talk out loud and just, but it's different now. As I said, you can't go outside your house without somebody's paying attention to your conversations. You can't, bathrooms are not safe anymore. I mean, it's an invasion. Okay, it's a severe invasion. So you're just gonna have to be creative as to how you comfort yourself. You can hold yourself and just have a silent conversation to yourself. And pay attention. Pay attention to what unveils itself to you. Pay attention. You'll hear it within. Okay, if you're hearing something other than your voice within, okay, pay attention to that. What's that all about? Where is that coming from? Because there is this invasion, and it's all energy based. And sadly, a lot of us are not going to realize that until hundreds, maybe thousands of years from now. It has always been energy based, always. All because we have been deceived by our physicalness. A lot of us have wasted countless amount of lifetimes, countless, thousands, maybe millions of opportunities of lifetimes to figure out we're more than physical. Our scientists, more than anything, have failed us on that. We are more than physical. So, again, new year, new problems, or new year, same problems. I think it's a combination of both. We've allowed so many problems to just fester and fester. All we're doing now is, we're just piling stuff on. And so we're like covered in this criminal negative energy because we've failed to resolve stuff. So it's going to take creativity. It's going to take love and patience with yourself to navigate yourself through these criminal negative energy, this plasma of energy that is suffocating us, literally, figuratively, and metaphorically. Whereas we have this bottleneck. Remember, just consider this as a bottleneck, and we're all kind of piled down, and we're attempting to get to the top. It's difficult. It's all my point. And then you're going to be suffocating because, a lack of proper breathing space and breathing room and this and that and the other. So just love yourself. When you speak out, do everything in your power to speak. Just speak within. And allow your consciousness to open up and suggest some things, some ideas for you to consider. It's gonna be an uphill battle from here on out. A lot of people are going to have sadness, despair, despondency, and it is. And you think 2025 was just consider what's going to happen from here on out. So I'm going to go ahead and send peace and love all over the stars and moon and mountains. My intention has not changed since I started this process in 2022. It's to help and assist, because I'm supposed to. And there's a lot of other people who are supposed to as well. So reach out to whoever you feel comfortable reaching out to, and be kind and gentle with yourself. Be kind and gentle with others, but like I said, defend yourself by any means necessary. Do not allow disrespect. Do not allow anyone to threaten you, harass you, antagonize you. Seek, document. When you do go to the your local police department, you can say to him or her, because everything is recorded. I want this documented, and I want this recorded, and demand that. I know that there's not much you can do. You can say this to an officer or whoever you reach out to, even if you're reaching out to the electric company. I know there's not much you can do, but I want you to document this and blah, 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 blah. Give the date, which is January 3rd, 2026, and then da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Documentation does help, but you need to make sure that you have backup as well of this documentation, because things will start disappearing as well. A lot of people are going to say, oh, I don't have any record of it, whereas you will. So peace and love all over the stars and moon and mountains. Universal love was always inclusive. We as a humanity divided it and turned them into commodities, but we as a humanity can reverse that and bring back universal love.